right. So let's go to work. Let's go to work. So as we come to the end of February, come to the end of Black History Month, come to the end. For many of us, we finished our fast and we've made it through, and everybody's doing good. We began the year with a challenge. We began the year challenging you to finish the things that were left undone. Not from just last year, but from years past. We challenge you to get through with those things because God was looking to do a new thing. Did you finish what you were supposed to do in 22 and before? That was the question. And we began our fast January the 11th, and we talked about being fruitful. That's where we've been. We've been this whole time for the last 2 months talking about the fruitfulness of what you've been doing. And we began by holding ourselves accountable. And the question that we ask, where is your fruit? Where are your figs at? That was the ultimate question that we wind up asking. And then we moved on to Brother Gideon. And how he viewed himself. And we wanted to help you to understand that quite often how you view yourself is not how God is looking at you. And we have to see ourselves through God's eyes. And quite often that's very difficult. It's very difficult to see ourselves the way God sees us, because God is not looking at the outward things. God is not looking at the things that matter of fact, he could care less about the things that you've gone through. The fact of the matter is where you're going to. That's what he's looking at. And he's going to be approaching you from your going to perspective. That's how he deals with you. And he came to Gideon and he said, first of all, Gideon, I want you to know I'm with you. I'm right there with you, bruh. And not only am I with you, but then he called him mighty man of valor. And Gideon had a problem with both of those statements. Gideon took issue with it. First of all, if you were with me, then it wouldn't be, things wouldn't be like they are. And a lot of us have that same mindset today. It would be better. God, if you were with me, I wouldn't be going through. If being a Christian actually meant what they said being a Christian means, then I wouldn't be dealing with the stuff that I'm dealing with. And I'm just here to tell you somebody lied to you. That by accepting Christ does not mean that you're not going to go through things. The trials of life do not stop there. And quite often the heat turns up because the enemy is mad and he's trying to get you to go back on your commitment to Christ. Yeah. And so Gideon had to go through some things, and God, the great thing was God is patient with us. God will allow us. Sometimes we'll have to prove to ourselves that he exists, and that's a hard thing. And so he'll show himself to us if we'll allow. And he did that with Gideon. He allowed Gideon to do his little minuscule testing. And finally Gideon was ready. And God said, now I'm ready to pull you from being the farmer, from the mindset of the few, and to put you into the fight. It's time to get busy. And he said, I'm going to prove myself to you. I want you to call all your buddies out, all of the people who would fight with you, call them all out. And 32,000 people showed up for Gideon. 32,000 showed up. But he said, you know what? Just because people are with you does not mean that their heart is true. Just because people are there does not mean that their heart is true. And just because people sit down beside you and stand in your corner does not mean that they are with you. They might be in their corner, but they might not have your back. Understand that just because folks stand beside you and say nice things to you, you need to know who you're with. All right. And so God showed and say, listen, let me check everybody's heart. Let me check where their heart really is. Go ahead and just tell them, if you're really not with me, go ahead and go home. And 22,000 people left. Anybody, you ever had people leave you? I mean, when you think they're there with you, you know, you look around, you say, okay, I got some slack, it's all good. And then all of a sudden, people start leaving. And he still had a few with him. Gideon still had 10,000. God said, no, I want you to understand that although they're with you, they're not ready. And since they're not ready, we need to make sure that the ones that go into battle with you, they should be called by me. So take them to the water and tell them to get a drink of water. And everybody that just goes and stuff their face in the water and just lap like a dog, get rid of them. But those who kneel down and bring the water to their face, those are the ones that I want to take with you, because they are experienced and they know that we have to always be watchful. Doesn't the Bible tell us we need to always be watching? We need to always be praying. We need to always keep our eyes on the prize, right? We can't be down and out and so focused on the things of the world that we forget about the things of God. And so there were only 300 left. So when you go from 32,000 to 300, that's as a matter of fact, it's less than 1% of what you had. You ever looked at your bank account and your bank account is less than 1% of what you had the day before? Houston, we have a problem. Well, that's where Gideon was, but God said, now you will know when, not if, but when I deliver you, that I did it. I did it. And he proved that to him. He took him into battle and he proved that to him. So today we're going to complete the topic. We're going to complete the topic of you being fruitful. We're never going to stop asking you to be fruitful, but we're going to complete this topic. And today we're going to use as a topic, let the juice flow. So say that with me. Let the juice flow. Yeah, let the juice flow. Let the juice flow. Since we've been dealing with vineyards and we've been dealing with fruit, I thought it would be proper for us to complete the series in the same vein. So today we're going to talk about letting the juice flow, letting the juice flow. Because see, I want you to understand that grapes and vineyards are mentioned in the Bible, literally from Genesis all the way to the book of Revelation. The Bible talks about the vineyard and it talks about the grape. Even when the spies went into the promised land, and Moses sent them in and they came back, and it took 2 men to just carry one bunch of grapes. The grapes were so big, so promising. It took 2 men to carry just one bunch of grapes out. That's how important. And that was the picture that God was using for what I have promised for you. And so understand that. So we're going to use that, keep that in mind today. Your fruitfulness, your being tied to the vine. So if you would stand with me. We're going to read from the book of John and 15. We're going to start at the first verse in the book of John. I'll have you stand now so you don't go to sleep. Oh man, see, yeah. John the 15th chapter, starting at the first verse, and it reads like this. I am the true vine, and my Father is the husbandman. Every branch in me that beareth not fruit, he taketh away. And every branch that beareth fruit, he purges it, that it may bring forth more fruit. Now ye are clean through the word which I have spoken unto you. Abide in me, and I in you, as the branch cannot bear fruit of itself, except it abide in the vine. No more can ye, except ye abide in me. I am the vine, ye are the branches. He that abideth in me, and I in him, the same bringeth forth much fruit. For without me ye can do nothing. The 6th verse says, if. Yeah. If a man abide not in me, he is cast forth as a branch and is withered, and men gather them and cast them into the fire, and they are burned. Verse 7 says, if. Yeah, if ye abide in me, and my word abides in you, then ye shall ask what you will, and it shall be done unto you. Herein is my Father glorified, that ye bear much fruit. So shall ye be my disciples. May God have a blessing to the reading and the hearers of his word. You may be seated. I want you to pay real close attention to 2 words. One is the word if, which I tell you all the time. If is one of the smallest big words in the Bible. He says if 2 times, but there are 2 very big ifs. If you don't abide in me, there's going to be some consequences. But if you do abide in me, there's going to be some positive consequences. See, if is what's called a a subordinating conditional conjunction. You didn't know you would come to a grammar class today. Yeah, it's a subordinating conditional conjunction, which what it does is it connects a dependent clause to an independent clause. So if you ever went to school, if you ever were in school, if you ever took science, if you ever took math, you'd had if-then statements. If condition happens, then this will happen. And God uses it quite often in the Bible. If you abide in me and my word abide in you, then. And that's what we're talking about. If is often followed by then because it's conditional. See, I have to tell people quite often that God's love is unconditional. He will love you regardless. He'll even love you enough to let you do your own thing. He'll even love you enough to allow you to make the choice to go to hell. That's how much love he has for you. But his blessings are conditional. Okay? His love is unconditional, but his blessings are conditional, and we have to understand that. So a lot of ifs come with the blessings of God. But imagine, if you would, the branches that he's talking about. Imagine if the branches could talk. Because, see, quite often we give God a whole lot of ifs. We give God a whole lot of ifs. So if the branches could talk, the branches would say something like this. If only the soil was just like the soil in the other vineyards, I could really produce some great grapes. If only the dew would fall on this side of the mountain on me, like it falls on that side of the mountain on those vineyards and on those vines, boy, you'd have some great grapes. If only the husbandman would use this special, it's on sale at Walmart. If he used this special fertilizer on me, I would produce such good grapes. If only. We give God good excuses, and guess what? Quite often, we are just like the branches. If only there were more people in church, I'd go more often. If only we had a musician, you know what? I'd be more inclined to do more. If only they would do this, then I'd do that. Or if only they would not do that, then I'd do this. If only. What we do is we'll put the blame on God and other people as opposed to what we can do. You know, I told you last week, excuses on the left, reasons on the right. How many of our excuses are really reasons? Most of the time, our excuses are just a dressed up lie. So we have to be very careful. We have to be very careful when we're blaming God and other people for preventing us from serving like we really should. We have to be very careful. Can I tell you that God has given you everything that you need to do what he expects you to do right now? See, don't worry about what you want to do next year, what you want to do in 6 months. What are you doing with what you have right now? That's the question. What are you doing with what you have right now? See, again, turn all the excuses off. Say, Lord, this is what I have. This is what I can do. Are you doing that? Am I meddling? Okay, now I'll move on. I'm just saying, that's Holy Spirit told me to ask you that. He told me to just ask you and then give you a moment to contemplate. I don't want to just rush by that because too much is not being done for the kingdom based upon what somebody else is not doing. And if we would only look at ourselves in the mirror and say, this is what I can do, this is what I'm called to do, this is what I'm responsible for. And guess what? If I did my piece and you did your piece and you did your piece and you did your piece, you know what? This puzzle would come together and we'd have a whole picture. But everybody seems to be waiting on somebody else when they get started, when the momentum gets going. Yeah, momentum. Yeah. When the momentum really gets going, then I'll kick in. And if everybody waits, guess what? Nothing gets done. We had an old saying, repeat this after me. If this church was just like me, what kind of church would this church be? Lord, help me. Lord, help me. Now I don't want you to answer. I don't want you to answer except to yourself. Answer that to yourself. See, remember the servants and the talents? Remember the servants and the talents? He gave one 5, he gave one 2, he gave one 1, and he didn't tell them what to do with it. You are the servants and the talents. He didn't tell you exactly what to do. He said, but I gave this to you with the expectation that you will do something with it. I expect to get a return on my investment in you. I have given you what you need for right now. Don't worry about what you don't have or what you want to have later. What you have right now, what are you doing with it? That's the question. That's the question. Big or small, do something with it. Do something. Produce something. What did Jesus say? He said to the servants with the talents, when they had done what they could do with what they had, he came back and he checked them. Then he said, well done, thy good and faithful servant. He said, you've been faithful only over a little bit, because that's all I gave you was a little bit. You've been faithful over a few things, but you know what? I'm going to make you rulers over many. Then I love the end. Enter into the joy of the Lord. Have you ever experienced the joy? Not just joy, but I'm talking the joy of the Lord. You can't even imagine the joy of the Lord for being guilty, for doing what he told you to do. Guess what? And you ain't gonna know if you won't do what he told you. You ain't gonna. You want it? Then do it. Simple. He's not asking you to go build cathedrals. He's not calling you out to fight against the Midianites and the Amalekites. He's just asking you to talk to that sister at the job. He's just asking you to forgive that person. Just let it go. Quit thinking about it. Quit thinking about what I should have told them. I should have let them say something else to me. I wish they would say something else. Let it go. Just letting it go will bring you some joy. You're carrying some mess around. Imagine you walk outside and a dog had the audacity to relieve himself in your yard and you step in it. But instead of cleaning your shoe off, you walk around all day with the mess on your shoe and complain to everybody. Now, which is easier, to clean the mess off your shoe and keep going, or to walk around and complain about it? But we are by nature negative. We are by nature negative. Matter of fact, somebody looked at it out there, looked outside today. Man, it's foggy and it's cold. It was 85 degrees last week. Now, it's all foggy and cold. I can't stand it's foggy and cold. It's February. It's supposed to be colder than this. You see what I'm saying? We can find some. Did we not? What's the flip side of that? Oh my God, thank you for another day. Thank you for the fact that I can see the fog. Thank you for the fact I'm not out in the fog. I'm not living in a box on the sidewalk under a bridge somewhere in the fog. It's raining. I have to change my house every time it rains. You see what I'm saying? Change your thoughts. Think about what you're thinking about. God is saying, you know what? I need you to make some juice with the best of what you have. I need you to let the juice out. Do you have any juice? Can I get any juice from your branch is the question. So now, because I need you to grasp the concepts, because you are expected to bring some juice out of your grapes, out of your branches. And I want you to understand this. Grapes can't bring forth juice unless they are crushed. You can't get, anybody like grapes? Everybody raise your hand if you like grapes. Anybody don't like grapes? Anybody? I've never met a person that don't like grapes. I've never met a person who don't like grapes. But what I do want you to know, that you can take the grape and you can maybe smell a little bit of it. You can put it in your mouth. You can roll it around. But until you break the skin on that grape, you're never going to taste it. Imagine going to your favorite restaurant, sitting down, and you order, I just broke my fast, and I'm going to order me a T-bone steak, and praise the Lord, I can have me a glass of wine. Good God Almighty. And they bring, ma'am, sir, your steak will be here in a minute, and they sit the glass down on your table, and it's just full of grapes. They sit it down, and it's full of grapes, and you look at them and say, man, are you stupid? I asked for a Merlot. I asked for a Sauvignon Blanc. I asked for whatever the rest of them are. Yeah, Pinot Grigio. I asked for a glass of wine, and you brought me a glass of grapes. And they tell you, well, ma'am, sir, what we didn't want to break the skin on the grapes, so we brought you a glass of grapes. We didn't want to break them. We didn't want to harm them. We didn't want to. No. See, the problem is a lot of us don't understand, what we're going to have to go through something in order for even the fruit that we bring forth, in order for it to be utilized, we're going to have to go through something. God gave you some gifts. He gave you some wonderful things, but you're going to have to go through something for it to turn into something. There is a process. There is a crushing that sometimes have to be done. And I want you to understand that your fruit will rot if it stays on the vine. Your fruit will rot. That's why they call it a wine press. See, here's the deal. Here's the process. The husbandman, God, he creates the vineyard. He puts the vineyard there. God, then he makes Jesus. Jesus is the vine, right? And then he connects you to the vine. That makes you the branch. And you are the branch that's supposed to bring forth the fruit. And the fruit that you bring forth has to be processed. And sometimes we don't like the process. Wait a minute, this is my little fruit. I produced this fruit. You can't be doing what, Lord, I produced this. This is my, how you going to crush my fruit? And I did this. Can I tell you, sometimes your baby may be your fruit. And God would use your baby. He'll use your child. He'll use your family. He'll use your loved one. He'll use your situation to bring forth the juice. We've got to trust him. We've got to trust him in the process. Your job is to be connected to him, bring forth the fruit, and he does with it what he will. I need you to get this. He does with it what he will. But he cannot come forth. In order to get that taste, in order to get that flavor, in order to get that juice, it has to be pressed. 2 Corinthians 4, 8, and 9. I love he said, look at here. We are troubled on every side, but we're not distressed. He said, we are perplexed, but we're not in despair. We are persecuted, but we're not forsaken. We're cast down, but we're not destroyed. That means you are going to go through something as your branch produces the fruit. But it's not going to kill you. It's not going to kill you. It's going to crush some things. It's going to press some things. It's going to cause you to be perplexed. You won't know all the answers, but there will be times that later, come on, every one of us has gone through something, and later we saw the fruit of that pressing situation. We saw the wine that came forth. You can't have wine without crushing some grapes. You cannot. You cannot. Remember when Jesus was his first miracle, he was standing there with his mama, and his mama, said, hey, they ran out of ran out of wine. And Jesus said, woman. The second time he called his mama woman. You know, only Jesus can get away with calling mama. I wish I would have called my mama woman. You know, you can pick your lips up over there, son. But he said, woman, it's not my time yet. And she had so much faith in his ability. She just told the servants, y'all just do whatever he says. And what he did was he did not turn the vats of water into big vats of grapes. That's not what he did. He turned it into wine. Now, we don't know how the process went instantly from water to wine. That's not our business. That's not, quite often it's not your business how he's going to take your grapes and turn it into wine, but he is going to press it. It is going to go through the process, and he may make the process happen instantaneous, or the process may take some time. That's what faith is, allowing God to take us through the process so that the fact that we're connected to the vine and we're producing some fruit, that it's going to work out for our good. All things work together for the good of those who and are called according to whose purpose? His purpose, not mine. These my fruits. You got to allow your fruits to be crushed. You got to allow your fruits to go through the process. We have to. Quite often we don't want to do that. We don't want to go to it. And then sometimes we produce the wrong kind of fruit. We have to understand that there's a season that fruit ought to come forth. There's a season for growth, right? Season for planting, season for growth. What Solomon told us that, right? Season for planting, season for harvesting, right? There's a season to use, there's a season to consume. The problem is that so many of us, there's too little fruit from our branch. We're not doing enough. We're not doing enough. Sometimes the problem is that the fruit is not used correctly. Sometimes we produce fruit, and then we produce some sour grapes because our attitude is jacked. So yeah, we got some fruit coming, but what do I always tell you? Actions speak louder than words, and attitudes speak louder than even your actions. So if I sit right here and I see Pastor White, she's sweating, you know, and I know she needs to use my towel, right? And okay, I'm gonna give her my towel. Here, dog. That attitude, you see what I'm saying? The attitude, the action. I gave her my towel. What you want? I gave her my towel. Dog, I gave her my towel. What? But no. My attitude, and God is always looking. He's always looking. You doing something with the wrong attitude, you may as well not do it at all. You give and your attitude, well, say, I'm tired of them asking for money. Matter of fact, have you noticed we don't ask for your money? We give you an opportunity to give and we keep it moving. We don't stand up and say, okay, well, we didn't raise enough in the offering, so now we need $75 more. I'm going to start it out with 10. Some of y'all know about that. Some of y'all know back in we don't do that. We don't. And the bad part is, for some people that's way back. For some people that's happening right now. Don't get it twisted. For some things that haven't changed. And see, that's the thing I want you to know about. When we start talking about grapes, we have to understand that. Excuse me. We have to understand that we can't stay with the old wine. Even though I told you that it's about the attitude. If, excuse me, thank you. Yeah, see, that's good attitude. We have to be mindful of doing things sometimes the old way will cause the wineskin to break. Jesus said you don't put new wine in old wineskins. Because again, the process will cause the wineskin to break, and then it's wasted. So no, sometimes we need to do some new things we don't need to be doing just because that's the way grandmama and them did it. Just because that's the way mom and them did it does not mean that's the way we do it. Sometimes things need to change. The question is, how are you going to let your juice flow from your grapes? How are you going to let it go? Because what I'm saying today is that we need some new wine. I'm saying, baby girl, we need some new wine. That's why I'm asking our young folk, hey, what is it that you see that you want to do, right? Because I'm getting older. And what I'm trying not to do is turn into a raisin on the vine. Are y'all hearing me? Because see, there's there's purpose for raisins, but understand the raisin is a raisin once it's all dried up and it really has no more use. Has anybody in here ever had a nice, cold, refreshing glass of raisin juice? You know why? Because there's no such thing. Raisins don't have juice. Raisins are dry. They are the last point of before the grape is just thrown away. It's like we know what we found some use for this shriveled up old raisin. And understand, God can, it doesn't matter what your age is, God can use you at any age. But what I'm saying now, while you're fresh, while you still have some juice, let the Lord use you. That's what I'm saying. I'm looking for some young, fresh grapes that's looking to let their juice flow. I'm asking for some new ideas so that HF will continually have some juice flowing. I don't want to be the old raisin up here at age 70 and 80 about to fall over that barely can hold on. And No, I don't want to be an old shriveled up grape. Still trying to be juicy. No. let's the juice. No. The purpose, our purpose is to bring forth fruit. Our purpose is to bring forth fruit. Let me try to shut this down. Here's the deal. You ever heard of the word vintage? Yeah. Vintage, it comes from the word vine. It comes from the word vine. For those of you who are wine connoisseurs, when you go to a restaurant, you'll ask, what is the vintage? They'll tell you what year or what season the grapes that this wine was made from was harvested, and when it was processed, and when this particular wine was released. In particular, this is a 1962, whatever, expensive. Let me shut up. So, this is from this vintage. We talk about vintage cars and vintage clothes. There's shops that you can go in and you can buy vintage clothes. They call them vintage. They're old clothes, right? You can go, but you can go and pay. A lot of people pay a lot of money for vintage clothes. People have little kids now are selling tennis shoes online because they're vintage Chuck Taylors. They sell them online and they make money off of them. They're vintage. And see, it's a season for that. But what I'm saying is, what we want to be mindful of is not stuck in an old season. We don't want to be stuck. Sometimes it's time for the season to change. It's time for some new juice. It's time, again, we'll use everybody. I love the fact that God was still using Abraham when he was 90. God was using Moses when he was 80. But see, eventually Moses had to turn. Eventually, Moses had to turn it over. That's why we talk about Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Why? Because God continued to use down through his family. When Abraham was long past, his son and his lineage was going on. We have to be mindful of that, but your juice has to start flowing now. We have to start teaching our kids, our young folk right now, listen, you have something in you and God wants to get it out. But sometimes to understand that everything's not going to be easy. Sometimes he's saying it's only going to come out when you are pressed. Don't get upset when you're pressed, but don't get upset when things aren't going exactly the way you want them to go. Understand God is going to use that if you will allow him. If you won't spend your time just complaining about things are so bad, take a look at the other 359 degrees in your circle, because you're only looking at the 1 degree. This is the problem. 359 degrees in a circle. You refuse to turn your little knucklehead around and look at the good things. All we want to do is complain about the old thing. God is saying, I want a new flow. Sometimes the vintage issues could be our dysfunctional family, our dysfunctional past, some dysfunctional relationships, and we get stuck in that vintage. We get stuck in that old time. We get stuck in those old ways. We get stuck talking about what somebody did to me, right? Now they're gone and living their life, but you're stuck thinking about what they did to you. And God is saying, listen, if that vintage isn't right, send that bottle back. Send it back, and now I want you to start drinking out of this new wine. I want you to start, as a matter of fact, I want you to start allowing a different juice to flow. I want you to start putting my word in you so that when you start to get pressed, what comes out of you is not what used to come out of you. As a matter of fact, you'll shock people when the new juice starts to flow. You'll shock people when you don't act like, because they are ready for you to act a fool at the family reunion. They're ready for you to cuss them out on the phone. They're ready for you to respond to them ugly in the email. They're ready for it. They're prepared. And you say, you know what? God bless you. Let me know when you're ready to talk, and I'll be standing by. In Jesus' name, send. And this is, I'm talking to see when it's new wine, this isn't fake. You're not just faking. You're not just doing it because pastor said this or what. No, you're doing it because there's a new wine that's being made. There's a new process going on in you. I'm talking about letting a new juice flow out of you. Because the way you've been when you were being crushed before and the stuff that used to come out of you, how did that work? Did you like what you got? Did you like the end result of that? Did you like how you were treated after you finished doing your thing? After you told them, you gave them a piece of your mind, baby, bet, hold on to it because you don't have a whole lot. But hold on. Change. Understand crushing is coming. I want you to change. Here's the last thing I want to tell you about grapes. It's the last thing I want to tell you. If you ever go to the store, if you ever been to a vineyard, ever been to Napa, Sonoma, up in the Washington area, you go through the vineyards, you'll see grapes come in all different shapes, colors, sizes, the different tastes that they have. What's my point? God makes the grapes different. Your grapes will not look like their grapes, will not look like her grapes, will not look like his grapes. They're not supposed to. They're not supposed to. You're not supposed to do the same thing that they do. You're not supposed to say the same thing that they say. It wouldn't be new. It wouldn't be new. See, the problem is the world wants to give you seedless grapes. See, we're supposed to produce after our own kind. In Genesis, I want to say it's 1:8. God said he brought forth the fruit-bearing trees and seeds after their own kind. There's supposed to be something in you that produces something in somebody else. I tell you all the time, we're supposed to be spreading seed. And seeds, there should be something that comes out of you that can be reproduced and even maybe made a little bit better. But it starts in you. Question is, what kind of seeds are you bringing forth that's going to be reproduced? Because I told you the other day on TNT that you're going to, your kids, they catch more than is taught. Their things are more caught than taught. You can try to teach them all day long, but they're going to catch what they see. It's like a cold, right? What they call them, air-bearing viruses. What is it called? Airborne. Thank you. I knew it was something somewhere. Airborne viruses. They just float around. That's how kids catch your stuff. So whatever you're saying, that's what they're catching. However you're acting, that's what they're. You know how to act when you get here. You know how to act. But whatever you're doing on a day-to-day, that's what them babies are catching. So check yourself. What are you reproducing? Because God put it in place. You're going to reproduce after your own kind. What kind do you want to reproduce? Seedless, they'll tell you if you research seedless grapes, they'll tell you seedless grapes are actually natural. They came about in the 1900s. They're actually, but then if you really dig deep, you'll find out that the seedless grape is a mutation. Okay? It's a mutation that man has learned how to graft into other grapevines, and now they can produce more of them. And of course, we prefer not to do the work, because I got to spit a whole seed out. In order to enjoy this grape, I've got to spit a seed out. Doggone it, when I can get some nice mutated fruit. Okay? So I'm just saying, so what the enemy would tell you is you can do what the world does. You can act like the world. And hey, you bringing forth some good stuff. You're doing some good stuff. Don't call that churchy Bible stuff. You're a good person. You are very good. You don't have all of that believing in Jesus and I'm the way, the truth, and the light. Nobody comes to the Father except by. It don't take all of that. You're a good person. You give. You raise puppies and everything. You nice. I'm just saying, don't be a seedless grape. Bring forth fruit. Understand that the Lord has something for you. Understand that there is no grape juice. There is no grape jam. There is no grape jelly. There is no grape wine without some crushing, without some pressing, without some breaking. We are not who we're supposed to be until we have been broken.
Yes. Say it again.
Once we have been broken, then he can use us. Because until we are broken, we think we're perfect. We think we all that and a bag of chips. Lay's, Ruffles, Jack. No. He said we have to be broken. But once we're broken, then he puts us back together. And if you ever seen the Asian art, you'll see they purposely will break a piece of fine china. And then they'll put it back together. They'll glue it back together with gold. So that when they put a piece of broken pottery back together, lined with gold, where they put the broken pieces back together, now it's worth more than it ever would have been by itself. So when you're broken and God puts you back together, you're worth far more. You can, because now you have some wisdom and you have some experience, right? I always say if you fall down, while you're down there, don't jump up too quick. See, some of us, we fall down and we want to get up so quick because we don't want nobody to know we were down. I'm all right. No. When you're down there, get some wisdom. Sometimes we need to ask why. Lord, why am I here? What are you trying to teach me something? Because once you get up, guess what? You can tell somebody else, because somebody else is going to come along and fall just like you. We tell our story every day in our office to new clients. We want them to know, here's what we've been through. And here's what God has brought us to. You're sitting in front of us right now because of what we went through. When we both fell down and didn't even feel like we were useful to God ever again. I thought I was the biggest failure. I thought everything was wrong with me. I thought, God, I failed you. And you know what? I'm done. I'm not going to preach again. I'll just go and sit at the back of the church. Finally, he told me, no, son, I'm going to use all of that hurt, all of that pain, every one of those tears that you cried. I'm going to use that. And not only am I going to use it, but I'm going to use to save other people from going through what you went through. But I had to be crushed. I had to be broken. And it hurt. Think about it. If you were a grape, think about it, if you were a grape. It hurts. But I'm so much better for it. And I'm so much more appreciative. I would have done it a different way. I'd have figured a smoother way to do it. I'd have done a much different way. But God said, no, this is the way I need you to do it because this is going to be effective. When you tell this story, people are going to listen to you. When you tell this story, they're going to understand that you understand. When you tell this story, this isn't something that you read in a book. This is something that you have lived. This is something that you have overcome. And he said, I have no respect of persons. So since you made it through it, maybe there's some hope for me. Let your juice flow. Let your juice. God has something. I keep telling you, there's a purpose. You're not here just to take up space. You're not here just to be a cheek in the seat. Let your juice flow. Amen. Give the Lord a hand clap of praise.